If you're serious about investments, you should consider watching our episodes, Iron Capital Talks, because here at this table, we aim to interview founders, C-level executives, investors from the blockchain industry who achieved great results. I want to share here their experiences and their journeys, and the most importantly, the mindset behind their success. Today, the conversation is with Paula Tavangar. Welcome, Paula, to Iron Capital Talks, and thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. You've been on my radar for a while. I really wanted to
and we never managed
invite you.
to meet at events. Yeah.
And I'm super happy you are here with us. And please, for those who don't know you yet, just tell them.
Or probably many.
Tell us a little bit about your background.
Definitely. Well, most of my career, one way or another, is directly related to finance. That's my passion, and that's what I really love to do. So my career started more on the corporate side of things. And it's very interesting where I am today, because I had this very strong corporate mindset that I'm going to spend 20 years in the bank. My dream was to become a director in 20 years. However, things changed quickly after coming to Dubai. So I have been in a few funds, mainly trading, structuring assets. And later on, I became one. We set up a fund where I was a partner and also managing my own strategy under the fund. Same year, I co-founded a fintech startup, which I sold later on in 2021. So all these things kind of brought everything together for me to go into private equity. So maybe if anybody knows me, is for our private equity investments into the blockchain industry. And currently, what I'm focusing on is again more on the traditional side of things, but we are still gonna have private equity under the fund.
Why did Dubai change your mind? Like you said, once you came to Dubai, actually the things change a little bit. Why was that?
Well, I think I had a very similar experience to almost everybody here. I think in our own countries, we have a very stable life, right? Like you have the same job for 10 years, your neighbor has the same job for 10 years. And it's kind of a very different lifestyle. But here you keep on, I think the turn rate of people is so high that probably if you stay more than 5 years, at least your closest circle changed a few times, the people you work with changed a few times, your job changed a few times. So that's also what I experienced. And I met a lot of entrepreneurs here who really inspired me, and also the place itself, the things that you're seeing on the news, they're mainly focused on entrepreneurship, on innovation, and just seeing the city changing so much. I'm here, this is my 8th year in Dubai.
Wow,
and
nice.
Just the rate at which the city is changing even is very inspirational. You're like, wow, if this can be built in 1 year, imagine what I can build, right?
Exactly,
in terms of if you have the passion, obviously, and the creativity.
I think this is one of the most important elements when it comes to Dubai. You need to quickly adjust.
Yeah,
because
you adjust or you go home.
Yeah. That's very nice way of saying it. It's exactly the truth. So you have to be able to adjust quickly, because the level of development here is at the speed of light.
Yeah.
So that's super true what you just said. And why blockchain? Why in this field of innovations? And what do you see exactly in terms of opportunities? And why do you like the blockchain industry?
Blockchain is kind of a very nature extension of any industry, I would say. Like, I think that this is so overly discussed topic that probably everybody that is watching knows already, like in which industries blockchain can be used. But actually with blockchain there is no limitation. Like it can be used in the medical sector, it can be used in hospitality, it can be used in finance, it can be used literally everywhere. So it's quite generic, and then from there, once you go into investments, you get your specific investment thesis, and then you decide exactly on which area you will be focusing. So for me, kind of the private equity and just kind of the early stage startups are what I'm very passionate about, because you come to hear first about things that are still in embryonic stage, and this I feel this develops your creativity, and also even the people around you, like the network that you get, like even the way you think, I find is very fascinating.
So do you like to support like big ideas from very early stages? Do you like this part where people just put it into big moves and you want to be part of their journeys?
Oh,
Is this what
absolutely.
excites you the most? Like what is exactly the fulfillment behind those investments that you take?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, investment obviously is one way to be part of those ideas. And then there are other ways like advisory. I advised on many companies as well. So yeah, just being part of the journey is what I find really exciting.
What do you see their main challenges when, like, because when we talk about early stages, people should understand that that's a, like, as the words, right, very early stage. So it's just basically an idea, okay, maybe put it into a business plan or something, but that's pretty much everything, right? Sometimes an MVP,
Yeah.
but in most cases it's just from their side, I think, just a great idea. So they were looking for funding, right? So what are the challenges? What do you see their needs the most?
Well, I would say it again, like it really depends on the VC and the thesis. But I think that most of private equity firms are looking at quite later stage than just idea. Obviously, their company specializing in that. But ideally, you look, when we say early stage, you look at something that at least has an MVP. So I think that the interesting factor there is first your talent as a scout, you know, to see something that nobody else does, right? Or to see the potential, to meet the team, to see how they think. Because sometimes the idea is great, but then you just see that the team doesn't have the capacity to execute it. So it's just you're making a call there, and that's something that brings a lot of excitement. It's like trading stocks, but like on a completely different level. It's more intuitive, I would say. And then you asked about the challenges, right? On that end.
I mean, something like, okay, from the team perspective, you just mentioned that you are looking for that X factor, right?
Yeah.
Something that they will be a unique team in a way or another. But in an investment perspective, how does that look in terms of challenging?
Definitely it's challenging because there is no way to know, right? So diversification is key, as I always say. I think that you should look at first, like you should have a very big universe, like you should meet as many startups as you can to kind of filter out and have comparables in the sector. And then it's numbers game, I think. And then from there, at some point, you need to make a call. So ideally, you know, from let's say 100 investments, if 60 work out, then you're doing amazing.
Oh wow, that's a very big percentage. That will be just an awesome conversion
it
rate.
really depends. Yes, in especially in blockchain, like the returns are very asymmetric. So I had seen VCs that, you know, out of 100 investments, they have 10 that work out and they cover up for all the other 90. But if we look a bit more in terms of traditional private equity, if you have a good hit ratio, above 50, you're doing great.
When it comes to the team, what's that main element that you're looking at to make the difference in your decision?
The team, well, it's definitely the expertise and their particular expertise in the sphere that they are. So that's obviously the first and most important. But then also
experts in their field. That's the main condition.
And to have, I think I mentioned it earlier, to have the capacity to execute it, right? So I always think that you need somebody from business to have very strong business background, because usually, especially in that sector, we see a lot of developers. But to execute an idea, you really need to know how to do the business model, how to do the financials, right? And especially early stage, that is so crucial.
Yes.
I had seen like incredible projects with incredibly talented people burning out so much money that after 6 months, they don't even know where it went, you know? Like they were just, you know, paying for this, paying for that. And then 6 months down the line, they have no clue where the money went. And, you know, when you're using external funding, then you're responsible to, you need to open up your books to investors, especially if you want to go for another round. So that's one of the most common mistakes I had seen. So usually when we go early stage, that's one of the first things to evaluate, like can they handle it financially? Because at the end of the day, it's business and you make money only if they make.
Absolutely. In this, behind the beauty of the blockchain, as you mentioned, with a lot of departments, a lot of markets inside, right? It's just based on your imagination when you want to plug in the blockchain industry and to make it happen for you as a business. Where do you see the business wise the biggest opportunities? Like where actually are your bets in the blockchain industry? What are you focused on?
Well, I would say there are too many, as I said until now, but maybe it also depends on what are you investing in, right? Like, is it equity or tokens? But what I would say is, I think, since I'm finance native, for me, decentralized finance is the most interesting angle, the one that I understand best and I follow very closely. So I'm very, very excited and interested what's happening there. In terms of particular examples, maybe I really like the derivative space. So I'm a derivative specialist myself. And I really love seeing that evolving, especially in a DeFi manner, because in traditional finance, many of the more exotic specific options are traded over the counter, which essentially is like peer-to-peer. So I see that there is so much application for that. I see also that it's super early stage. So the platforms that hit the right spot to be able to onboard institutional investors are gonna make it really big. All kinds of applications actually in the DeFi sector. Also, I think for gaming, like blockchain just makes sense, right?
Yeah,
is there.
absolutely.
For all other industries, I think that we need to have government involvement on a very high level for it to work. For example, the medical industry with the medical records. I interviewed few companies that are bringing the medical records on the blockchain. So essentially now we're in Dubai. If you go back home for a week and then you go to a doctor there, they can access all of your medical history. But this obviously requires, as I said, like government involvement, like or something on a very infrastructure, like adoption on a very big scale. So that's not something that I would enter early stage, but all that type of applications I find extremely interesting.
Somehow, do you apply a reverse engineer strategy? It's not about the where the blockchain industry gives you the opportunity. It's more like where you can have the biggest impact as per your expertise. So if you are, like you just said, that you are in decentralized finance, DeFi, and that's your expertise, I'm going to attack the market from this perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a very important point of view because in general, people just go with blockchain industry and say, okay, now it's gaming or it's a metaverse. Okay, but what you can actually do there to have to bring value at the table in that particular market if you know nothing about the audience behind. And let's say you are an engineer or medical, for example, right? Why you don't just go and build in that direction, because there is where you can have the biggest impact.
Exactly.
So your insights are very valuable and backed by truth.
I'm happy you find them so.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to touch this part with the social part because we know we're living in Dubai, so Dubai in terms of social and lifestyle is definitely a point to be mentioned, right?
Yeah.
And how do you see the metaverse? How is the metaverse will change our lives? And if you see it, first of all, if it's coming and it's huge, how do you see the impact?
Well, for me, it's so natural and organic that I'm sometimes even shocked when I talk to people and they don't really understand metaverse. I think metaverse now is a similar concept like blockchain. It became a very much buzzword and very few people truly understand what it is and what it will be. But I think that we had the opportunity to live in a very interesting span of time in terms of technology. Technology has been evolving so fast, it's crazy. Like sometimes I'm thinking, oh my God, like I'm getting old. No, I'm not getting old. These things are really growing so fast at such a fast pace. So I can remember, when I was a child, like we would have the landline, and then we started having the mobile phones, right? And then we started like calling, then we had the messaging, the SMS, then we started having the apps, right? The first phones with the touch screen, and then the way we communicate changed so much. Like I remember this period where we were like always texting on SMS, and then
pagers.
Yeah, I don't remember the pagers. But then it evolved so quickly to video calling, right? Like it really depends on which country you are from. But like when I'm back home in Turkey, for example, I would just directly FaceTime my friends. Like we're not even ringing. Like we're just going to directly FaceTime, see the face, see where they are, and you feel so connected this way. Like even if you're at the other side of the globe, you feel connected this way. And then how I see Metaverse is just like a natural extension to that. Like there are many ways of how Metaverse will integrate into our lives. The way I imagine it personally is that we'll be just able to, it's already there actually, if you used any of the VR sets, like we can have an avatar, and I can be like, if you're in the other room, I can be right next to you. But that's slightly uncomfortable, right? Like that's the first stage. It's kind of the MVP of the Metaverse, and I expect it in few years time to have the tech available that is something really small that's not going to bother us. And then again, as an avatar, like we can sit this way, like I can be probably back home and you can be back at your home, and we can be sitting here. So that's the way I imagine it. And if we think now, it might sound slightly crazy, but then if you think, this evolvement from the SMS to the way we communicate today through technology, like we're literally sitting on our computers for the whole day doing online meetings, then I think in these terms makes sense.
Yeah, and at the beginning is always a fact of fun things to do. And okay, you just put your glasses and you're in the Bali or whatever, and at one point is just you are out of the world. You're kind of weirdo if you're not part of this, right? Like,
it's a necessity. I think that if your organization just starts using kind of that type of virtual meetings, then you just have to do it, right? You don't have the option.
At the business level, 90% of the business meetings will be in Metaverse. It's a so natural plugin that will be adopted super fast. But in terms of social part, like in terms of really fun, do you see Metaverse put it on the table, like environments to spend time, I don't know, to drink something at the bar or to connect in this way in the social environments? Or like this one is coming, let's say, later?
This is something that I really cannot predict in terms of years, and everybody I talk to, nobody really has kind of a timeline for that, because what we have today is not really interesting, it's not really entertaining. So first you have the factor of disconnection, right? Like most of the spaces are just random people, especially when the avatars are not one-on-one with us, like they're just quite common avatars. Like right now the things available to public are quite basic, right? So you just go to a space, like it's really hard to move, today's metaverses look more like the games that we were playing when we were kids. So it's extremely basic level. So I'm not really surprised that nobody's spending time there. I used to, as part of our mandate, I used to test so many platforms, like Metaverse platforms. And I'm like, why would anybody use that? Like, it's not fun. It's not interesting. Even like the concerts or the shows, it's just like very basic figures. Like you cannot really see the details. So I think obviously that's, as I called it, is the very MVP stage, and from here it's going to evolve and evolve and evolve. And the only question is how many years it's going to take, because it's all technology. It's also hardware, not just software. So that's the only question mark. But in my opinion, definitely, even in terms of social interactions, it's going to get there. imagine that, like coming together with your friends to watch a movie, and many cool things that you can do in the metaverse from the comfort of home.
From the way how I see it, it will generate a massive adoption, because the level of entertainment will be something which we never experienced before as a society.
Yeah.
And like being able to, have this meeting now and then play football with your friends on Spain, on Bernabeu Stadium, right?
Yeah.
With Barcelona, and then swimming in Puerto Rico or something like this one will just, create for your brain a big addiction in terms of fun.
Well, I think to get to the physical experiences, it will definitely take a lot of time in terms of technology.
My bet is the speed of development.
Yeah.
I mean, like what we think it might take 10 years, it might take even a third of that.
You never know, right?
Yeah,
exactly. But I think in terms of adoption, we shouldn't have an issue. I think that the social platforms these days are so powerful that the way we download, all of us, we downloaded Threads, and now we're not using it. So as long as it's something entertaining, then I think that
Are you on
it
Threads?
will be, I am, but I think I posted twice. Are you using it? Are you active on Threads?
Yeah.
You
we
are
there. Yeah,
oh, wow,
with
okay.
Iron Capital News, we are there.
Okay,
we are
cool.
trying to put content out there. Which actually, this is the main thing. When one platform opens up the doors, you should consider using it aggressively, because they will reward you with a lot of traffic, free traffic.
Absolutely.
Anyway, that was the tips guy, by the way. You are welcome. And I want to touch this part with events, hashtag networking, right? Because obviously you are in almost all panels all the time. I see the big events. Either you manage to be the host or one of the guests. How is this part of networking from your part? Like, how do you actually network, and how do you have a proper strategy behind in terms of expanding your networking?
Well, that's a really long topic. Nowadays I so much advocate for networking, and I would say that that's probably the most important factor for being successful. Before I couldn't understand that, because I had that corporate mentality, right? So I'm like, no, we should sit and do the work. And I couldn't understand how our CEO is just traveling and enjoying himself. Like, that's how you see it from outside, right? And you're thinking, okay, if he just sits down and does some work, probably we're going to do even better. But then actually on high level, the business is happening there. You sit with somebody, you're having dinner, you're networking at conferences, and that's how the business happens, and the rest is just execution. So after learning that, I tried to become more social. I think back in the day, actually I speak at conferences maybe since 2018 or 19. And the way it started, it was, I love doing research. That's how I started. Actually, I even started a PhD. And I really wanted to share somewhere all that knowledge, right? I was very interested when there is a new topic to research and share it. So that's how it started. And then later on, like everything else, it just grows organically. So people start knowing you speak at one conference, they organize another, they would invite you. So it kind of became almost like a side gig or something without really targeting it. But I'm so thankful and happy for all that opportunities that the people around created for me. And even I got this advice to have a very open social profile I never had before. And at the time, again, I didn't really understand the meaning of it. I was thinking that it's a very selfish thing, why would people want to see my selfies, But then I realized, like, I have a very niche and very targeted profile about what I'm doing. So it's a very small profile. It's definitely not an influencer or anything like that. It's just a small space where I'm just sharing what I'm doing. And people tend to find that interesting, which makes me very happy. And I realized the value maybe a few days ago. I was sitting I had a few meetings, and after the meeting I was sitting in a coffee shop, and somebody passed by and said, "Oh, you're Paula, right?" And I'm like, "Yes." I said, I'm following all of the things that you're doing. I'm especially popular on LinkedIn. Old
Yes, you
school.
are. Yes.
Old school. So he's like, I follow the things that you're doing, and I admire your work. So this is the thing that made me realize that actually putting it out there matters, so people just can learn what you're doing, because otherwise there is no other way to learn it, right? For people who don't know you directly. And actually that turned out to be a person that I really, like, I was trying to get a meeting with for a very long time. So yeah, I find it beautiful, like just connecting socially, and especially using those social networks to professionally develop yourself, to connect with people. I find it extremely important. So I would say like conferences, and also keeping like a nice social profile, so people get, the moment they click your page, they get to know something about you, right? So they instantly connect, and there are things to talk about.
Yeah, and how the things work usually, after every single event, there is like a mastermind attached, or like something more exclusive, right? With people like going to the next level of the opportunities, and there
Exactly.
You can be even more relevant for the table and put it into real big opportunities in terms of business. This is the beauty of Dubai events as well. One of the most benefits. Of course, you being attended almost all of them, you know for sure the game. But this was actually the reason why I asked you, because I'm a huge fan of this mindset part, where as an investor, this one should be your like your main job on your agenda, to constantly expand your networking, right? And I was curious about how such a successful investor like you achieve these results, if the strategy is something, but you just mentioned some great tips.
Thank you. Well, you exaggerated it a bit, but yeah, I think networking is, as I said, is really, really important, and I can just feel it. So, and sometimes when you connect with somebody that you meet for the first time, even if it's not directly relevant, right, it's not the same sector, I figured out that you always leave the conversation enriched in a way, because, you know, everybody has different background, different beliefs, different culture. So if you know how to navigate a conversation, you always go out of that conversation with something more.
Exactly.
So I think it's beautiful connecting with people.
When you have conversations with people from different areas, from other than your expertise, actually that I found out that one of the most valuable conversations, because you can just access some totally different points of view, and this is very important as well when it comes to, like, you know, evaluating a thing or something, just to have multiple perspectives.
Exactly, yeah.
Awesome. Here at Iron Capital Talks, I want to implement, actually, this is the first time when I'm doing it, but we have the investor test. So I'm going to virtually...
Don't bring me back to school, please.
No, just fun, you know, it's just fun. I'm going to give you some amount, and let's go concrete. So I'm going to give you $30,000, where we are going to split it, like $10,000 you have to spend and bring back as much as you can within next month. So
within the next month.
Yeah. Where you'll place the investments and why?
Wow, that's a very complicated question. Well, my expertise is in cross-asset and overall portfolio management. So if you made that 30 million, it would be way easier for me.
Okay. So big money brings big money, right?
Not just about that, but I mean, I think that the investment universe changes completely, right? So with a small budget, I don't know, like probably like opening a small business. Like that's not something I have done or is part of my expertise. Like for smaller tickets, it's harder because you lack the diversification, right? So usually what we do as a fund is we try to hit. So you need to have at least, let's say, 10 investments to make it work. Plus, most of, especially private equity, it's pretty much of a long-term investment. So you need to have the mindset that you're going to be keeping the money there, which gets difficult when your budget is lower. So I would probably invest into a physical direct business. I don't know.
Okay, that's just your
that.
answer. That's perfectly fine. The second stage, where is you take $10,000 and you need to double the money within 6 months. What would you do?
Well, see, if you find me someone who can do that, I'll hire them.
Okay, that's a very great answer. So actually, you'll hire someone to do the job.
If they have that skill, I'll definitely hire them, because this means like doubling your investment in 6 months. That's great, because you know how most of things work, right? Like if you can double 10,000, it means you can double 10 million.
Absolutely, it's way easier to play with big amounts. And the last 10K, you need to make 100K within 3 years. What would you do?
100K. Well, see, that's way more realistic.
10x in 3 years.
I would probably invest it in a startup, like as angel investing. I haven't been very useful. I really wonder what your other guest answers were.
I told you this is the first time.
That's the first one. Okay. Hopefully you get more useful tips in future.
Yeah. Actually, I want to see, because first of all, will give me the way how you see the market right now, and like where do you see biggest opportunities. And of course, the amount is just anyone can change it as per their willing, right? It's just a matter of example.
Well, it's always is part of something bigger, right? Like you rarely just have random 10,000 that you're going to spend on something. It's part of something bigger. So in terms of investments, I think that's my, it's finance 101, but diversification. So the more different types of investments you have, like short-term and long-term at the same time, like volatile, less volatile, etc. Like the way you construct your portfolio, that's what, in my opinion, brings the returns long term. So some things might return, as you said, 10x, and then you need a bigger part of portfolio that's going to return, let's say, 5% per year to balance, because some years going to be down, this is going to be up, this is going to be down. So the diversification is the key factor to balance that portfolio and long term to increase your wealth.
Absolutely, yes. From the investment perspective, like as an investor, actually, what's your risk appetite? Where would you position yourself from, let's say, a scale from 1 to 10?
Well, as I said, I'm extremely balanced. I believe in diversification. So it's just the way you're constructing. You need to have this and you need to have that. So if we're talking, for example, particularly private equity, and if now we're talking blockchain, we always aim to not have too many investments into similar things, right? Because then you increase the single point of failure. Because let's say if the DeFi market starts underperforming, then you need to have investments, let's say, into gaming or to Metaverse to balance it out. Like everything goes in cycles. Unfortunately, I think that the blockchain sector is still extremely correlated. So if DeFi suffers, probably everything else is suffering too. But we had been seeing like slight diversions, like for example from gaming, because people don't stop playing just because the market is down, right? That's the only market, I guess, that had been performing quite well. But again, I'm neither pro or against risk. I'm more balanced. It's all about statistics.
So in terms of percentages, do you have like a rule behind, very solid one, when you go like, okay, for the risky portfolio, let's say like that, projects, I'll just allow like maximum 5% or something like that? Do you have this kind of strategy attached?
Absolutely. If we're talking about corporate and let's say a fund, that's the very first step. You need to create your investment thesis, and then you need to have all the parameters, I would say. But then I guess what's more relevant is like a personal portfolio. For me, I also have very, very strict strategy. I think that at every stage of life, you're having different risk appetite, because I think that when we're on the younger side, then we still have space for failures, right? And we have less capital, so we are ready to take more risks, which certainly changes if we're looking at someone who's already, let's say, at 60, and they just want to preserve their wealth and they're super happy with anything above inflation per annum. So for me personally, I have my long-term, like, pretty illiquid investments, and then on the other end I always have a certain percentage which changes with time, but I would say like 10, even up to 20% of my portfolio I would put in pretty risky things and see how that plays out.
Yeah.
But I have a very strict rule of also when I see profit, I'm cashing out and I move it to the safer part of the portfolio.
Nice one. Yes.
Yeah.
Just to be with your mind in a more peaceful way.
Well, I studied finance for so many years. I practiced for so many years. I should have taken something for my personal investments too.
And when it comes to, like, right now, the market, what's your current approach? Like, are you keep deploying, or you're in standby waiting for the biggest drop, which the entire market is talking about? Everybody's waiting for another drop right now.
Well, as I mentioned before, like currently we're doing mostly traditional things, and globally the markets are pretty diverse, so we're very, very active. Then on the blockchain side, pretty much holding and waiting to see some clarity, because I'll tell you what happened. In the beginning of the year, everybody was extremely optimistic. Here I'm talking just purely about early stage investments, right?
Yes.
So in the beginning of the year, everyone was very optimistic, and everyone was, now is the crypto winter, so now is the best time to invest, which I still believe. When it's quiet, when everybody is fearing, is the time to invest. And once the market picks up, obviously, you bear the fruits of those investments. But what I had started seeing is like the market slowly, like the excitement dropping and drying out towards the end of the year, when everyone was expecting that the market will start slowly picking up. I find that very intriguing, but I guess that how that happened is that many of the VC's funds are locked up in projects that do not want to launch in these terms. So it's not just the VC sector, it's like the whole sector is on wait and hold, because the founders do not want to launch their projects in such a market. Everybody's just waiting for better times, but for better times to come. So projects need to launch, VCs need to unlock part of their capital to be able to reinvest again. So now the thing that we were projecting for towards the end of this year, I feel like shifted already for some time next year. But I'm still very optimistic. Just things are now way slower than they were like a year and a half ago. It was crazy. Like every day there is a different project launching, 5 others. You cannot even figure out from your investments which one launched and which didn't. Like so much happening, conferences every day. So now obviously everything is at probably 10% pace of what it was a year and a half ago. But we're gonna get there. I think now is interesting time to build, to reflect and connect with people and prepare for the next bull run.
Do you believe in this war between elites, let's say whales, how do we call them?
Uh-huh.
Whales and retail, like where the whales are trying to intentionally to squeeze the liquidity from the retail, and then because in a most probable scenario, what's happening, like the retail the mentality is once they see the price drops, right? They think they are already in bear market, and that's a very big opportunity, but that's just 3% of the bear market, and they spend the entire liquidity or the capital within, let's say, maximum 10% from the bear market, and the entire black period is not there yet, right? And they're not able to put the bets when actually the opportunity is there. And do you see this war like this, or is just a matter of the market as it is, or is really a battle behind?
don't really think it's a battle. Just I assume that the so-called whales, like the wealthier you get, the more financially educated you get, right? So that's what I was saying. Like you never should put all of your eggs in one basket. Like if the market drops today 5%, person who is interested in, let's say, financial education, they wouldn't put 100% of their liquidity in the market and hope for next day to increase 5%, right? They're going to place it very strategically. You know, okay, drop 5%. Okay, I'll put 5% of what I have. If it drops, there are multiple strategies, obviously.
Absolutely,
that's just an example. And then I'm going to place like more and more. And there is a saying also in finance, nobody buys at the bottom and sells at the top. So, you know, the thing is to place it in a meaningful place, right? There are certain levels. So to do your analysis and to believe in it, to not just do random things because you saw the market fluctuating and you're just entering all in. There should be a bit longer term strategy behind it.
Yes, I do believe in the long-term strategy, but in the same time, you need to see some results, right, as an investor, because just waiting for to monetize your investments.
Certainly, but there is this factor as well. Like, do you want to speculate or you want to invest? Because the two terms are very different. When you invest, you truly believe in the idea, in the startup, in the project where you invested, and you know that it might not work out in the first 1 year, but it will definitely explode in the next 5. Like that should be the mindset when you're investing. And then you're calm. Like if the team is performing well, everything is fine, just price-wise, things are not doing great for now because of the market. Probably you're going to have great returns in future. But then if you're just speculating on, as I said, like you see the market drops 5% today and, you know, you bet all in that tomorrow it's going to spike, then that's pure speculation and it's a completely different mindset, different place.
What's your time frame in terms of when you put money behind a project at early stage? What will be your allowance for that project to be monetized?
Well, normally in traditional private equity, when you put into any type of private round, you're looking at 3 to 5 years. And something that I found very fascinating in the blockchain sector, especially during the bull market, is that, you know, you invest and then in 6 months you start getting vested and then in 1.5 years you already sold everything you had. So that's why so many projects raised insane amount of money and then they went bankrupt, because obviously there are multiple factors behind that, but one of the factors is that the VCs or the institutional money were there just to multiply, not to really support. So when a VC invests in you, they become your friend, your partner, your
everything.
You're everything, yeah, your advisor. So you get so close, you're kind of walking the path together. It's not just a transaction, okay, I gave you X amount and then I want to cash out X amount in 1 year's time. So usually that type of investments are pretty long term.
But I think that strategy burned the space as well, because we need to be frankly speaking, that's not healthy at all to have like such a fast ROI, right? Like in terms of 1 year from the early stages investment, right? To cash out the entire investment, and that's something super accelerated. And definitely there is an element there which doesn't align to things to be done in a proper way. But from there, the appetite of the VCs, because they see that okay, if this kind of things are happening right now, let's put more money. And projects, they were just building up a white paper and raising $10 million, and we are having fun right now. That was super unhealthy for the space.
Absolutely. Well, I always say that, see, now if you look at the market and if the risk-free interest rate is around 5% and then you're making 50x on the project, like there's something wrong there. Like there should be literally insane demand or something is probably speculated in the back.
Can you share one of your, the most profitable investment you did? Like in terms of crypto projects? No problem. Confidential. Fully confidential. That's perfectly fine. So now, Paula, I want to touch this part with mindset a little bit. We still have a couple of minutes, and behind the scenes, right? Behind all the investments and everything what you achieved, like what you literally want, what you want to achieve in terms of personal level.
Well, like all people, I want to be happy. So where I think happiness lies for me is living a meaningful life, right? Both personally and professionally. So personally, I think as a woman, the highest achievement that you can possibly have is being a mother, being a wife. So having family. I'm already married, so I'm halfway there. So having a strong family, everybody around me being healthy, being together, that's something very important to me and something that I specifically allocate time to. And then professionally, there are multiple things, like goals obviously change every quarter, every year. But now we are in the beginning of a new venture. So big part is related to it. Like we have very, very specific goals. So I hope for that to grow significantly in the GCC region in the next few years.
But let's take it concrete. Let's assume that you already achieved. So now, at the moment of this podcast, your venture capital is in top 3 rank, right, worldwide. You have everything what you wanted. What you want, day one, after that, what you want?
Where I was coming to is that I believe in continuous personal development. So obviously at every stage of your life that comes with age, even with the people that you have around you, with the things that you're doing professionally and personally, those priorities can change. But for me, like continuous learning, I'm always very interested to learn new things, to enter new sectors. So maybe, I don't know, now actually you made me think about it, something that I always wanted to do, and potentially if what we're doing now is very successful, maybe the next step that I would love to take is to create a fund dedicated to medical studies, and especially biohacking is something I'm extremely interested in. And it started gaining popularity, I would say.
Red light therapy, this part?
More of reversing aging, but not just aging. It comes with reversing sicknesses and well-being. So it's a very broad subject. But generally, everything health-related is something I'm passionate about. Is something I'm very interested in, and I would love to. Since I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical staff, I would love to kind of have my contribution to it. So yeah, that's something that I've been dreaming about. So it might be it.
So what I understand is in the back end of this goal, let's say like that, is actually, do you want to have impact in people's lives, to change their lives?
Of course, I think that all of us, we have the same goal, like to at different levels to be useful to the society.
Of course, this is true, because actually this is the biggest fulfillment for us as a human beings, by helping others. And this is the way how you actually elevate your vibration, everything, by helping others.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, Paula, that was a wrap.
Very nice way and meaningful way of closing.
Yes, exactly. It's just a beautiful way of the way how you just mentioned things, your goals, personal ones and business-wise. I do appreciate your appearance today. I think people will have some valuable insights from your experience as an investor. Yes, guys, thank you so much for watching. Considering subscribing if you like, and please help us with share on our social media accounts. You can find us as Iron Capital News on 7 major platforms. And thanks again for watching, and see you on the next one.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having
Paula.
me.